You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast, brought to you by NBA 2K23. Myself, Mo Rootsy, alongside me as always, the one, the only, Mr. BJ Armstrong.
Oh, there's a lot to dissect in this game. But by the way, real name, no gimmicks. You know
the vibes.
Hey, you know what it is. But yeah, let's get into it.
First of all,
fascinating game.
First of all, I got to say thank you to Adam Silver, because we just watched a West Coast game that tipped off at 1:30 a.m. UK time. Usually the Western Conference Finals would be tipping off at 3 a.m. So now I'm getting like 1.5 hours extra sleep. So thank you, Adam Silver. The fans in Europe, Africa, Middle East, we all appreciate you. It's all love. And then before we break down the playoffs, as we do here every day, we have another issue to discuss, as the NBA's draft lottery took place tonight, BJ. And there was someone in France who is keeping a close eye. Mr. Victor Wembanyama hosted a launch party with Nike, of course. And a lot of people there. Kylian Mbappe was there. BJ, do you know Kylian Mbappe?
Soccer, right? Or football, right?
I didn't think you'd get that one. Yes, sir.
The guy, you know what? It's funny. I just saw his name. Plays for the French. I don't know. Plays for one of the French teams, right?
French national team and Paris Saint-Germain.
And I was looking at my wife and I were looking together at the highest paid athletes in the world, and I saw his name there, and I thought, I was like, oh, that's an interesting way to spell Killian. So I do know him. Yep. And so he was there. That's awesome.
That's huge. You know what I mean? That's like who's the biggest NFL player? Like Tom Brady being at Scoot Henderson's house tonight for this announcement. That's how big it is, right? So shout out to Wemby and Kylian doing their thing over in France. And they were keeping a close eye on the NBA draft lottery. And the ping pong balls came out. And should we give you the top five? I guess we'll give you the top five, because we've got to start at number
for
5.
Sure, you got it. We got to do it.
Detroit Pistons fell out of the top 4. Fell out of the top 3 even. Unlucky. But I think they're still in a good place, considering the young core they've got. At number 4, Ime Udoka was in attendance, representing the Houston Rockets, looking very stoic and composed as they get the number 4 pick. The Portland Trailblazers jumped up to grab the number 3 pick. For a split second there, Damian Lillard had some hopes of playing alongside Victor Wembanyama, but they fell to 3, or they jumped up to 3, should I say. And then it came down to the final 2, and I was praying that the Charlotte Hornets got the number 1 pick, because I want to watch them on the East Coast times. But instead, they get number 2, and the San Antonio Spurs. I don't know what kind of magic that they've got going on in San Antonio. This is some Harry Potter spellcasting stuff, because anytime there's a generational big man in the NBA draft, it seems like they just get him. You got David Robinson, you got Tim Duncan, and now you're going to get Victor Wembanyama. BJ, what are your thoughts after the draft lottery?
Well, Mo, I'm a guy who I want to see it. So I'm already going to make my plans to go to Vegas now, because I have to see him. And you and I were in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Vegas to see him play when he came here for the 2 games. And now I have to see him in the Summer League. I think it's a phenomenal fit for him, to think that he'll have, his mentors will be David Robinson and Tim Duncan.
Crazy. And Tony Parker from the French side of things.
Tony Parker, Boris Diaw, Manu Ginobili, and all of the foreign players who've come through San Antonio. So I think it's an amazing fit for him. His first coach will be a Hall of Fame coach, Greg Popovich. They have an incredible foundation and culture down there. They have a slew of first and second round picks to build. They have cap space. They have everything you need to build around this young man and provide him not just resources with money, but they have
a state-of-the-art brand new training facility as well that costs like $500 million apparently.
Yeah, they have that. But I just think they have all of the necessary pieces, right? Whether that's draft picks, money for free agency. They have everything there to allow him to be whoever he's supposed to be. And the most important thing, they have the knowledge, the wisdom, the coaching, the foundation, and all of the things around him. So congratulations to him. Sometimes in life, it just works. It just fits. Well, he seemed to have found the perfect fit for him, right? And I'm excited. I think it's going to be great. I'm on the West Coast, so I'll get a chance to see him at least, 4 or 5 times live in person here in LA.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get a chance to see him a lot because he's in the Western Conference. And Mo, when I get back into the league, I'm definitely going to the East Coast because I know for the next 15 years what's going to happen in the West Coast. So thanks, Victor, for limiting
BJ
my
running
choices.
back to the East, huh?
I got to go back east. Now I got to get back to the snow. I got to get back to the cold weather.
I'm
going to tell you what, it's going to be tough in the Western Conference now.
I'm going to have to find a GM job in Orlando or Miami or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm just telling you right now. The West is spoken for. Okay. So, go east. Go east, young man. Go east.
Go east. Okay. Well, shout out to the Spurs. They look like they're in a pretty good place. I think a lot of teams, there's going to be a lot of talent coming out of this draft. Unfortunately for Chicago Bulls, they've lost their pick.
Yep.
Because it was protected. They've lost it. And then
to Orlando, right? Didn't they lose it to Orlando?
Yes, sir. Yes, they're number 11 pick. So Orlando will have number 6 and number 11 in this draft.
That's good. That's good for them.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. But let's get back to the business of the NBA playoffs. We saw a thriller over in the Mile City of Denver as the Denver Nuggets were up absolutely huge against the Los Angeles Lakers, only for the Lakers to come back and make it a very close game. And I want to say this one thing before we break into the game. The timing of Ja Morant's statement / apology / whatever that was being released by Adrian Wojnarowski, you probably haven't heard about it because when the Lakers made it a close game and everyone's focused on the game, that's when they decided to release it. It was interesting time and great PR to try and bury it in that kind of news cycle there because it basically sounded like a copy and paste apology from what we've heard before. But aside from that, it was a thrilling game, went down to the wire almost. The last few possessions were crucial. And what can I say? Nikola Jokic, 34 points, 21 rebounds, and 14 assists to lead the Denver Nuggets to a 1-0 series lead. It wasn't as easy as his stat line make it sound. And I think the Lakers come away from this one feeling pretty confident. And the Nuggets have got a few things to figure out. But what were your takeaways from this game?
Well, Mo, I first of all, I want to give a huge shout out to Darvin Ham. Okay, Coach Darvin Ham. And the reason being, Mo, is when you see coaches make adjustments on the fly, because as you and I have talked off air, it seems like all the time. And then we get on air. It's all about making adjustments and finding a matchup. You got to find something, right? Even though you may lose the game in game one, because these game ones are tricky because they're fill out games. Like you're just trying to fill out what's what, who's who. And you're trying to make predictions. Sometimes you're wrong. Okay. So they come out and they go small, right? They put Schroeder and they had Austin Reeves on Michael Porter Jr. And that was clearly a bad matchup. Might have felt good in the coaching room, but when they got in the game, it was a bad matchup.
It felt good because they were shooting like 50% from 3. However, they were down by 20 points.
Yeah, but they were small.
Yeah,
the rebounding disparity was massive. It was like 20-3 at one point. Okay.
Yep.
Now, Coach Ham could have just stuck with his game plan and say, you know what? Hey, chalk it up, bad loss, game 2. But he does what all good coaches do. Okay, he scraps his game plan and figures out a matchup that they can exploit or at least match up to their size. Because, Mo, you and I guessed, we said, if they bring out someone to guard Jokic other than AD, they can get to a matchup that probably would favor them.
We spoke about Rui on the.
Okay.
I don't know if it was on the show.
I said I thought it was going to be Tristan Thompson or someone else, right? We were, and then, but I never thought Rui could hold him. But Rui is strong enough to just stand him up so that when the double team comes, you can double team him, as we saw your Boston Celtics do. You have to double team a big with another big guy. So now suddenly Anthony Davis is double teaming him as another big guy. Brilliant move. So I thought, wow, Coach Ham is coaching the game. Because I was like, great.
Here's the thing. No one can guard Nikola Jokic.
No one can guard.
As great as Anthony Davis is, and he had a great block on him, as great as he is, no one can guard Nikola Jokic, right? So regardless of who you put on him, he's going to either score or make an assist if you come and double team him, right? So it doesn't actually matter, as crazy as it sounds, it doesn't actually matter who's guarding him. So by putting Rui Hachimura on him, who's got, similar strength and a bit of size that can kind of hold it down, you allow Anthony Davis to roam off the ball. Now, by doing that, anytime the Joker makes a move to the basket, he's there to shut that down, and he's there as a help defender. If the Joker makes a pass to a player who's going to attack off the perimeter, he's also in the lane to shut that down. Now, the one thing that confused me, if we're going to straight away get into the technical side of things, is they had Anthony Davis, instead of guarding Jokic, guarding Aaron Gordon. Now, Aaron Gordon spent a lot of time then standing in the dunker spot, which I believe is a big reason for the Lakers being able to get back into this game, because the Denver offense really ground to a halt for a stretch there in the fourth quarter. If Anthony Davis is guarding you, even if you're not a confident three-point shooter, because we saw a lot of times them leaving Aaron Gordon wide open on three-point line. He was 0 from 3 from behind the arc. But even if you're not confident, it's imperative that you get out of the dunker spot to take Anthony Davis out of the paint. If you go to the three-point line and Anthony Davis stays in the paint, that's going to be a 3-second call on him. And at some point, if you're confident, you keep taking those shots, you're going to hit something, right? If you're Aaron Gordon, Anthony Davis guarding you, I'd like to see him either stretch the floor, but more than that, I'd like him to either be the screener. So go set a screen for Jokic when he's got the ball at the top and get Anthony Davis switched onto Jokic, or set a screen for Jamal Murray. Or if you're being guarded like a non-shooter, like we see Draymond Green being guarded, get the ball and turn it into a dribble handoff that will turn into if you run a dribble handoff with Michael Porter Jr., that's an easy open three every single time down. So there's a few adjustments that Denver can make to that defensive, new defensive lineup that the Lakers are putting out. So I think as great as that move is for Darvin Ham, there is adjustments that Mike Malone can make going into the next one. Whether he sees them or not, whether he agrees with me or not, that's besides the point. But there are definitely adjustments to make. I know the Lakers have found something, but I don't think that alone is going to shut down the series. I think the Lakers can win the next game, but there are counters to what they've done with that. Here's what I found most interesting from the game. Even when the Lakers were down, they shot a phenomenal percentage on the road in Denver. They were shooting from the three. They were shooting fantastically. And they finished this game shooting 46% from behind the arc, 55% overall. They only turned the ball over 7 times. But at the end of the day, the big disparity here is the rebounding. 36 rebounds to 51. And 21 of them are grabbed. You would think it's Kevon Looney, but no, it's actually Nikola Jokic. That's the difference, is both teams shot a great percentage. They shot almost the same percentage-wise, but the Denver Nuggets just simply had more possessions because of the work on the glass. So that's the more concern to me, is how do the Lakers address that rebounding difference rather than just the defense on Jokic?
Well, I think one of the things you have to consider, of why they won the game is because of rebounding, right? One of the principles of a sound offense is always have good offensive rebounding position. And that is the problem, in my humble opinion, with having a 5-out offense, because it doesn't allow you to rebound on the offensive end. So I get it. Many coaches have abandoned the principles, the sound principles of a sound offense, by saying we're going to just shoot threes because 3 is worth more than 2. However, when you add it up at the end of a game, rebounding and offensive rebounding, that's one of the winning trademarks of any good team. So as much as I would like to put 5 guys to do that, I want to get the offensive rebound, because that just deflates the other team.
Mm-hmm.
So the rebounding to me is way more important than putting guys out. So I personally don't think they have to make any adjustments with their offense. I think defensively is where I see the biggest
You're
problems.
talking about Denver right now.
I'm talking about Denver. Now, what the Lakers found out was...
Yeah, I mean, just before that, I was asking how the Lakers can address the lack of rebounding.
Well, the Lakers they've addressed it. They put Rui Hachimura on Jokic. You now, instead of just this being a late third quarter thing when you're down 21 or whatever they were down, now you can address that earlier in the shot clock. I think.
Okay. So you think that will carry through
starts? Yes, I think now they know there's something that they can go to. So now, how sustainable is it? Because Jokic is probably going. They're probably going to figure out where to put Jokic on the floor differently if they decide to go to Rui. Okay. They didn't abandon their offense because of Rui, but you can see that the lineups of having LeBron on Michael Porter Jr., now you got size on size. You have Anthony Davis on the kid.
Aaron
Gordon. Okay. And Rui is just strong enough to hold the initial thrust because it's not like he's going to blow by anybody. He's going to power through. And when he does power through, he shoots flip shots. Well, if he's shooting flip shots and Anthony Davis is there, it's a little different than flip shots and Austin Reeves is there. So I think that's
the 6 possessions which Rui guarded Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic was 0-2 and he turned the ball over twice during that span.
Yeah,
in comparison to Anthony Davis guarded him 15 times and Jokic went 10 of 13 from the field. So shout out to Rui Hachimura and the impact of Anthony Davis being off the ball.
They found something. Now, on the other end is where the Lakers, I should say, the Lakers found something and Denver has a serious issue. Because on one hand, you have the offense of Jamal Murray, but it's clearly they've targeted Jamal Murray.
And he was in foul trouble as well.
Yeah. So now, if there's an issue to me that has to be addressed by Denver, that's it. Because if they're going to target one of your primary players, you have to have a counter to support him. And the counter is either we're going to double or we're going to have to make a substitution because we know Bruce Brown is a better defensive player. However, you're going to give up something on the offensive end. That, to me, is going to be the delicate balancing act for Coach Malone here in game 2. Because if they can get game 2 and stabilize that situation there, without question, they can win 1 game, maybe 2 in LA. If they can stabilize that situation, and that's a big. You always have to stabilize defensively. When you're getting attacked, and you know the other team can't stop you, that is a major problem because now that puts pressure on you offensively to just outscore the other team.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers now know they can do something. They can't stop Jokic, but however, they've shown the ability to at least force him to do something else to where he just can't come down and just score willingly. But on the other hand, the Lakers found something. And that to me just goes to Coach Ham because now he can bring out the tape tomorrow because tomorrow's going to be a day off and then they're going to play again on Thursday. And he can say, hey, fellas, if we can put together for 48 minutes, we can win this game. And he's exactly right. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited for game 2. This game 2 is going to be a very, I think, contested game because mentally everyone has to be sharp. You win game 1 and there's sometimes you can feel like a little relief or you can feel calm or the other team is depleted. Well, right now the Lakers should feel good about their situation. Yeah. And I'm really excited for game 2.
I don't think that the Nuggets can really, I get that they won, but at one point during this game, you were up 21 and, you ended up winning by just a couple possessions. So I think they definitely need to lock in and focus. Looking at some of the other players, though, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope had a huge game with 21 points. Jamal Murray obviously had 31. Michael Porter Jr., 15. Aaron Gordon, 12. And Bruce Brown came off the bench with 16 points. For the Lakers, though, Anthony Davis had 40 points. And he had a 3. We don't see that very often. LeBron had 26, 12, and 9. Austin Reeves had 23. He was huge. The Nuggets as well. There was a stretch where Austin Reeves had back-to-back possessions where it was a simple screen and pop to the wing. And the Nuggets was switching that screen roll, and Jokic was just too slow to get out. They've got to figure out that coverage as well on there because that was exploited heavily. Rui had 17 points as well to go with it. So there's a lot of things for the Nuggets to think about moving forwards, even though they did win game 1 on their home court. But speaking of game 1, BJ, tomorrow or tonight, we have the Eastern Conference Finals tipping off in yet again the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics for is this the third time in 4 years, I believe? I want to get, first of all, your pick, and then we'll break it down a little bit.
Well, I'm going opposite of you, of course. You're going to pick the Miami Heat in 4, and I'm going to pick, your former team, the Boston Celtics. I'm going
okay, well,
I'm
first
going to pick
all,
your former team.
They're not my former team. They're always my team.
Okay.
Second of all, Heat in 6. Don't ask me why.
Okay.
I'm just saying it. Let's actually break it down. Though, because these teams met in the bubble and whatnot, but the rosters look very different. You seem quite confident about the Celtics. Tell me why.
You have 2 guys, Tatum and Brown. I don't see players that they can match up with. Okay, Jimmy Butler. Okay, I think he can clearly match up with one, but he can't guard both of them. And so I don't see that. Defensively, this is going to favor the Celtics. Why? Because Kevin Love and Bam, that's not a favorable matchup versus Rob Williams and Al Horford.
It intrigues me, Kevin Love's ability to space the floor, unlike a PJ Tucker, forcing the Celtics defense to stretch out.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with it. I think Rob Williams and Bam, that's a good matchup, and Al Horford, and I don't think Kevin Love is going to play enough minutes to do that. But maybe he does.
If you were Joe Mazzulla, would you go back to having Derek White in a starting lineup and making Kevin Love kind of unplayable?
I'm always about my defense first. I'm going to establish defensively I can stop you.
Well,
the formula is simple.
Derek White is an all-NBA defensive player.
Yeah, he's an all-defensive player. But okay, Derek White is not going to stop Jimmy Butler one-on-one. So we can throw that out the window. Okay, I'm not into. Very, very rarely do you find guards outside of like Marcus Smart or the kid for the Milwaukee Bucks, Drew Holiday. Very rarely do you find kids who can stay in front of their guys without fouling and has the strength to do that. Derek White, I think he can block shots, but I don't think he's not going to shut down. That's other kid, and we know that those are good matchups for him. When Duncan Robinson and these guys come in, those are good matchups for him. However, I want to establish that I can defend, rebound, and I'm going to force them to double team me with Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. I'm going to force them. Jimmy Butler can't guard everyone. Okay, their biggest and athletic player is going to have to get in some form of rotation during this course of this game. Why? Because Jaylen Brown is either going to have a matchup or Jason Tatum. And if Jimmy Butler gets in foul trouble, to me, it's game over. Now, is Jimmy Butler capable of having a 50-point game? Yeah, he's capable. But I don't even think that's enough in this series, in this game, because of the lethal combination. So, and then let's not forget about our good friend Brogdon. Let's not forget about our good friend, Derek.
Well, the last time that these guys played each other with Tatum and Brown both healthy, the Miami Heat took the win in overtime, 120-116. And Jason Tatum really struggled in that game with only 14 points, but Jaylen Brown went off for 37. So I guess it's kind of a pick your poison here for Miami in terms of which one of those guys who's going to actually match up with those guys. And then the thing I think about as well for Miami as they get deeper into the playoffs is you got to remember they are missing Tyler Herro, who provides instant offense off the bench, meaning that Jimmy Butler doesn't have to be relied on so much, and Victor Oladipo as well, who's an experienced playoff performer. So I wonder how much that will factor into it. I would need to see more aggression from Bam Adebayo on the offensive side of the ball. Talking about that game where they beat the Celtics, he had 28 points. And, that's the level that Bam Adebayo needs to be on, in my opinion. For them to make life really, really difficult. And, the impact of Kyle Lowry, we talked about so much in the last series. You mentioned it there. I think Brogdon is a great kind of matchup for him in terms of a more experienced guard compared to what the Knicks were offering. If you were looking at the Miami Heat, what would be your strategy to kind of slow down the two stars in Boston?
Well, they're going to have to slow the game. They're going to have to slow the pace down. They don't want to get into an up and down matchup with this team. They're going to have to really take care of the ball, limit their turnovers, and try to control the game with their offense, meaning run when you have an advantage. Otherwise, let's run our offense and be very, they want to be very, not. They just want to. They want to go out there and say, okay, we're going to play very methodical basketball, and we're going to make sure that we at all times can get to the free throw line and have five against five, especially on the defensive end. I just don't think they have much room for error. It's not to say that they can't do it. However, Mo, I think if the game is played and that the Celtics, which I expect them to do this, I expect them to force the tempo of the game by extending their defense. They're going to get into them, Gabe Vincent and company. They're going to, and Kyle Lowry and those guys, and you're going to force them to play at a pace they don't want to play at. Why? They just don't have the numbers to do it. So, I think they're just going to have to really, really be very methodical. I think they're going to just have to go out there and play at a slower pace, and not try to get into track meet with this team. I think that's very difficult to do.
Is there anything that Eric Spoelstra can throw at them from his bag of tricks?
Listen, I don't think there's anything you can do. You can't match up now. Do I think they can win a game? Yeah. You can win a game, but you're talking about you got to beat this team 4 out of 7 times. I think that's tough with this group. Anything is possible. That's why you got to play. However, I think it's going to be very, very tough as I look at it without a minute being played. Now, maybe we find out there's a matchup that we don't know about, like we saw tonight with Rui Hachimura. Like, that wasn't one I was counting on. I was like, that's interesting. But I can assure you this. Coach Spoelstra is going to throw everything at him but the kitchen sink. He's going to have an answer for him, and he's going to force them to beat him. Now that I know. Heat culture is going to come out and compete. They're going to play hard. They're going to give themselves a chance, and you're going to say, good game plan. They're going to have everything that's necessary. They will be prepared for the game. I just think at some point the talent will overcome this. And right now, as I look at it on paper, the Boston Celtics have more talent than the Miami Heat as we enter into the Eastern Conference Finals.
Well, my concern is this. We know that even though they may be less talented on paper, the Miami Heat are going to play hard and stay disciplined no matter what, thanks to their coaching and whatnot. We also know that the Boston Celtics are what many refer to as an unserious team. Do they have the mental focus to stay locked in from the get-go? Or if they are favorites to win, will they do what they did in the previous 2 series and make life much harder for themselves by taking their foot off the gas when they're up, or not, respecting your opponent how they should, because they took the Hawks to 6 games. The Sixers took them to 7 games. And so now it's like, okay, cool, play around with your food and whatnot. But if you actually really are serious about making the NBA Finals, winning a championship, you can't have those mental lapses, and you can't have those stretches of not scoring, or where the offense looks like nothing's happening and it's just Jalen and Jason taking it in turns to kind of shoot. That's the concern for me, because the Miami Heat are like a well-oiled machine.
Well, you got the Miami Heat in 6, so why are you concerned?
I'm concerned for you and your prediction.
I mean, it seems real odd. I mean, that was an odd analysis. You know what I mean? Like, why are you concerned? You have the Heat in 6.
Yeah, I'm concerned for the Boston Celtics.
Oh, okay. All right.
It can be concerned on both sides. Looking at it from their perspective, analysis, you've got to be able to analyze things from both perspectives of the court.
Okay.
But
okay. All right.
We got to see. We got to see what happens. Who's winning game 1?
I already told you. I got the Celtics every game.
Oh, what? You got the Celtics in a sweep?
I got the Celtics. I think the Celtics are the better team. Now, it's not to say they're going to win every game. You got to come out and do it. I got the Celtics winning.
Okay.
I got the Celtics winning. I think they are the better team in this series on paper. But okay, let's play. Let's see. Jimmy Butler is going to come out and have something to say about it. Bam is going to come out. Spo's going to have a game plan. And they're going to play. I mean, those guys are going to compete. Mm-hmm. Now, the Celtics, listen, they responded in game 7. Big. I think the Celtics are ready. I think they are ready right now.
Do you think that game 7 finally woke them up, so to speak?
I don't think it's human nature. Like, it's people like we compare these things and say what we want to happen. This is the NBA. Like, these guys are really, really good. They're not just a little bit good. They're really good. So we say these things, but I don't think anyone believes it when we say it. But let's say it just for the sake of saying it. The hardest game in a series is the closeout game. That's the hardest game. That's the hardest game. Now, what we have seen is the Celtics, like all teams, have a very difficult time closing out games. I'm more concerned
serious
with the Celtics being up 3-0 and closing out the game, because if there's anything that they haven't done with the consistency, is very rarely do they close it out on the first time. They need like a second or even a third time.
They need to go down in order to start playing serious, because they're an unserious team.
I don't think it's unserious. I just know it's very hard to do. Like, you're up 3-1 and the other team is like, well, I don't have anything to lose. Mm-hmm. So that's very, very difficult to do. That's why when you see these great closers in the NBA, you have to admire it because they make it look easy. Closing someone out is hard because the other person has nothing to lose. So it's two people you don't want to play: a desperate team and a team that has nothing to lose. Like, if it's 1-1, okay, now everyone has something to lose, something to win. It's game 7, but 3-1 at home, everyone's there to see you win. And then here's the worst part, Mo. Here's the worst part. The balloons are hanging at the top of the arena.
Yeah, they're waiting for them to drop.
Now, I don't know what part of it is for you to have that level of focus. So you're playing against a team and they look up and they see the same balloons that you're seeing. Like, they see the confetti. They see the confetti too.
Do you remember when the Sixers dropped the confetti thinking they'd won the game, but it was actually going to overtime and they ended up losing? That was one of my favorite games ever.
So I know how hard that is. Now, everyone can sit here and go, they're not serious. I don't, like, come on, man, give me a break. Like, I don't need any bulletin board material trying to close these guys out. They look up and see all the confetti. Well, why do they have confetti up there, Mo?
Because they're about to win.
Because these guys have pride too, okay? You know what? So that to me is hard. It's like, everyone loves to talk trash, but so I don't think there's anything wrong with the Celtics. What I do think is that, they when it's time to respond, they respond. So yeah. I'm giving the Celtics credit. And so far it's worked for them. Does it make us nervous? Absolutely. Is it fun because they've won?
Fun for you.
Yeah. Well, you've picked them to lose anyway, so it doesn't matter for
I
you.
pick them to
But
lose everything.
for us who enjoy competitive basketball games, it's incredible.
I'll
I
say
mean,
for
it's
us.
it's incredible. Well, yeah, you picked them to lose.
I did. I did.
Yeah.
Heat culture,
So,
hashtag heat culture. I mean, they got Adonis Haslam on the bench. He'll wear his hoodie, throw some chairs. It's huge. Heat culture, hashtag. We got to talk about one more thing before we go here. After the game 7 win against the Philadelphia 76ers, the Philadelphia 76ers are making some changes. They have fired head coach Doc Rivers. BJ, I know that you might be the biggest Doc Rivers fan possibly in the world. So what was your reaction to this?
Well, I was very disappointed, and because Doc Rivers is a phenomenal coach, and he's a Hall of Fame coach. He has over 1,000 wins in this league, and look, part of the business of being in the public eye is you're subjective to criticism, as you should be, right? He's had his fair share of wins. He's had his tough defeats. But you know what? Any coach would love to have the opportunity to coach and play in the games, big games. Sometimes you win them, sometimes you lose them. However, I just thought this year, the way they played, it was just it was a tough year for them, right? Joel comes to camp. It was just a tough year for them.
This year,
I thought Doc did as well a job coaching this team as you could possibly do. Like
this year in the playoffs, this was the best I've seen Doc Rivers coach in a very long time. And this is the year he gets fired. I don't think he did a bad job. I think he did a very good job in the playoffs. But his star players just didn't show up. But we're not going to go down that rabbit hole once again. But I thought he put together a good strategy. Swept the first round, took the Celtics to 7 games, Embiid and Harden make some shots. You're in the conference finals. So it's tough. But obviously they've got Daryl Morey there. And, my bet would be on him bringing in his guy, Mike D'Antoni, and begging James Harden to stay. And then the inevitable trade request for Embiid, who ends up in Miami. And I don't know. But yeah, it's crazy. I think the 3 teams with the most wins since the 2020-2021 season, the Bucks, the Suns, and the Sixers, are now all without their head coaches. It's crazy. And then the other thing of the last 4 of the last 5 coaches of the years have been fired too.
I just hope this, is, being in this business for as long as I have now and being in a leadership position, for those of us who know Doc Rivers and know him well, and I've been fortunate to know him for quite some time, he's a defensive-oriented coach first, okay? And when you give him a team that represents his true personality, okay, which is, players like Tony Allen, players like Rajon Rondo, players like Kevin Garnett, players like Paul Pierce, players like Ray Allen, and you surround him with players that fit his true personality, not the compromising where we're playing isolation basketball on offense.
The bad news is, BJ, I don't know many players in the league right now who fit those personalities of those guys.
There are, believe it or not, Mo, there are teams that fit that. Okay, your core of who you are, that's who you have to be, right? We had an example tonight, the LA Lakers. They didn't get back because their offense was just superior. They got back in the game because their half-court defense,
unbelievable.
That's what I'm saying. Mo, in the end, the game always reverts back to what it is, right? The Boston Celtics, why did they advance? Defensively, they got back to who they were. When you look at the Miami Heat, who are they? They're not going to overwhelm you with just a 3-point barrage of shooting. No, they're solid on that end of the floor. The Denver Nuggets. Every team always reverts back to who they really are when you start trying to play winning basketball. The I told you this, and I'm not going to say it again because it's like Doc Rivers is a defensive oriented coach, and listen, James Harden is a terrific offensive player. He really is. I mean, you can't argue what he can do playing the way he plays, his style. Doc can't say it, but let me say it. Doc Rivers is a defensive-oriented coach. Doc Rivers wants to stop you first and foremost. He wants to play with a solid, brand of basketball on the offensive end. And this team just didn't fit him philosophically. Now, it may fit Daryl Morey, and that's okay too. It's not to say one way is better or one way is worse, but also, Mo, part of being a good coach, like when you look at Spoelstra, Eric Spoelstra is what kind of coach, Mo?
A genius.
He's a defensive-oriented coach.
That's true. But he is fantastic offensively also.
He plays absolutely. Okay? None of his guys hold the ball for 15 dribbles on an offensive possession and does that.
Yeah.
I've never seen one of his guys not hustle back on defense. I've never seen one of his guys not give second, third, fourth effort. I've never seen a Miami Heat player come to camp overweight, out of shape.
Pat Riley on that one.
Okay? Mo, let me tell you something. If let's say the rumor is true, Joel Embiid is going to go, let's say he does go to Miami. Well, I can assure you this. He's going to lose about 25, 30 pounds immediately.
Maybe I should join the Miami Heat.
Whatever you need to do, Mo, you do what you need to do so you can do what you want to do. Okay? But as I'm saying, I've never seen a Miami Heat player not in, here's the core of, Pat Riley gave me this and it stuck with me. Here's the core to me, which should be every franchise's mantra, if you will. We're going to be the hardest working team, the best conditioned team, the toughest team mentally and physically, and we're going to be the most unselfish team in the entire NBA. Okay?
That's
their
simple.
mantra.
It sounds so simple.
Mo, it's non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be I can assure you tomorrow night or tonight for you, the Miami Heat, you're not going to outwork the Miami Heat. You're not going to be in better condition for them. Like tonight, they're going to run back on defense every single time. They're going to give you effort. Now, if you make better plays and you execute, okay, I can live with that. Everybody can live with that. They're going to be the hardest working, the best condition. They're not going to be afraid mentally or physically of the contact. Let me assure you that. Okay. Mm-hmm. The New York Knicks found that out, right? They bullied Cleveland, and then you're not going to bully them. Okay. They're not going to crack under pressure because they're mentally weak. That's not happening. And they're going to be unselfish. I can assure you, Jimmy Butler is going to make the right play and the right pass, even though he's the best player and has a green light. I can assure you all of those things. Before the game starts. That's the pillar. Those are the 4 pillars of their foundation when the people talk about we're going to build culture. How are you going to win, Mo, when the other team outworks you? How are you going to win, Mo, when you're mentally weak? How are you going to win, Mo, when you're not even in the proper condition? How are you going to win, Mo, when your best players don't even pass the ball because they're selfish? They're getting up shots. So if you understand culture, like everyone, you hear that word all the time. Oh, our culture is good. Mo, that's culture. Mm-hmm. That's when you think of the Golden State Warriors, they work hard, they're in great condition, they're unselfish, and they're a good team. The LA Lakers were just better than them. Yeah. But they didn't beat them because they outworked them. They didn't beat them because they didn't meet the physicality of the game. They didn't beat them because they weren't playing unselfish. I mean, they were because they were playing selfishly.
Yeah.
The Lakers were just better. Now, that's the core. of who every team should be. Like, Mo, if we're playing in a pickup game, like, Mo, if I'm open, pass me the ball. If you're open, Mo, I'm gonna pass you the ball. What's wrong with that? Like, that's not hard to do. So that's what I see. And like I said, I think sometimes it's challenging for players and teams to play that way. All right, I'll agree with that. That's why you practice. That's why you have film sessions, to remind people of how and why you need to play in the manner in which we need to play if we're going to advance.
I hear it. Well, that's the Hoop Juice podcast for today. We'll be back tomorrow with a breakdown of the Celtics and the Heat and what unfolds. And I'm pretty sure there'll be more NBA drama to fill your timelines and to fill your airways.
Well, Mo, I was
so
thinking
stay
you were
locked
going to
in.
come back with you were kind of easy on me today. I mean, you're all right. Everything's okay.
I'm just waiting to see what happens tomorrow.
Oh, you're saving up for the Celtics.
I'm just waiting to see what happens.
You're saving
tomorrow.
up for the Heat when the Heat win by 25 tomorrow.
No, it'll be a close one.
Oh,
it'll be a close one. The emotional high of the game 7 will lead to the Miami Heat, who have been plotting on this a little while longer. But we'll see, BJ. We'll see. I mean, it was a great game, the Denver Nuggets and the Lakers. I mean, it was fantastic. I think, the whole thing with Doc Rivers on that side, it's obvious Daryl Morey has wanted Mike D'Antoni to be that coach ever since he got there. He didn't hire Doc Rivers. He was there when he got there, and he needed a reason to get rid of him. So I can't say I'm surprised by that. I will be surprised, though, if James Harden does stay, or, I won't be surprised if the Sixers offer him that contract. The draft lottery is what intrigues me the most now, because you've got some teams here who, obviously the Spurs are going to take Wembanyama, right? But then you've got the Hornets who've got the number 2 pick. They're going to take Scoot Henderson. How's he going to fit with LaMelo Ball? Is that going to work? Are we just basically seeing part 2 of the Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young, DeJounte Murray with LaMelo Ball and Scoot Henderson? I don't know. The Portland Trailblazers, do they trade that number 3 pick and Anthony Simons to get another star to put next to Dame Lillard? Or do they trade Dame Lillard for one of these draft picks? The Houston Rockets were talking about trading Jalen Green. Do they trade maybe for Damian Lillard and Portland have picks number 3 and 4 in the draft? Who knows? The Detroit Pistons, who are they going to pick at number 5? Do they try and move up a little bit to get the player that they really want? The Orlando Magic got 2 picks in the lottery. Like, it's so fascinating to me. I've just been in my head thinking about all of these possibilities of things that are going to unfold right here in the NBA, because the draft is only about a month away as well. So just over a month. So we got a lot to talk about, BJ. We got a lot to talk about. Appreciate everybody who tunes in.
I'm all for it.
Yes, sir.
I'm all for it.
Appreciate everyone who tunes in. We'll be breaking down and getting technical tomorrow with more of the NBA playoffs. And most importantly, until next time, subscribe to the show, leave a like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And most importantly, get buckets.